Hello, everyone. Happy Saturday. My name is Katie Gideon. I will be the on camera facilitator for this social, and I am dialing in from Edinburgh, Scotland. But I am so glad to be here. I am so excited to start a new month with each and every one of you. And I want to give a huge shout out to my co facilitator in the chat, Bailey. Bailey's dialing in from Tennessee, but I love working with Bailey on these socials. We have so much fun. Just some really, really good insight. I think we're a great compliment, but I am glad to have Bailey in the chat. So if there's anything that you need from us, let us know there. I love seeing all of our returning socialers in the chat. Your names just bring a smile on my face, and it certainly wouldn't be a weekend without each and every one of you. I would be curious if there are some new socialers in there. Make sure that your chat is set to everyone. And you can share as much or as little as you want, but I would certainly be interested if this is your first social, or if you even haven't been to a social in a while, or if you've been kind of a Silk and Sonder journal person for a while, but haven't quite gotten into the socials yet, or maybe you're usually a Sunday or a Monday socialer. Definitely, what brought you here, but we are glad you are here. And I love that someone already put in the chat, I think it was Monica, that she may not be able to get as much accomplished in her journal as she wants, but she wants to be here for the vibes and the chat and all of the feels that we can hopefully bring. But we are glad that you are here and we are ready to get started. So as always, for our community guidelines, be kind and courteous to yourselves and others, no promotions or spam, respect everyone's privacy, no hate speech or bullying. Please limit repetitive product and accessory questions. We do know that there is a lot going on and there is a lot to offer. So if you do have some questions, you can definitely send those to the hosts and panelists, and we'll certainly try and answer what we can. Then, as always, we may have to redirect some of those customer care inquiries to our team at hello@silkandsonder.com. And as always, Sonder Socials are a tool to help elevate your emotional health through the power of community, but you are responsible for your own emotions, well-being, and decisions. We know as we kind of come to the end of the year, as it gets darker, as it gets colder, and all the doom and the gloom of the seasons comes around, that can trigger a lot of feels. I know that November's theme was probably a little challenging for some. I know I didn't end November on the greatest of notes, and that's okay. That's why we get to start anew with a new month, a new theme, a new thing. So we definitely want you to acknowledge kind of all of those crunchy feelings, as Bailey would say. But if you need to set up some of those mental or emotional boundaries or barriers as we work through these prompts and setups, absolutely do it. No one is going to be looking over your shoulder to make sure you're doing everything exactly right. This is your time to take that hour to do whatever self-care things you need to do to either set up for your week, set up for your month, or just set up for the rest of your day. So, new theme, new month, all the new things. This one's theme for December is optimism. And I do think this is a really, really good, strong theme to kind of end the year on. I know it can be a little tricky when it comes to optimism in December, but I still think it's a really, really great thing that we can work towards. But as I was starting to think of optimism, these two kind of quotes came up to what I really liked was, optimism isn't a belief that things will automatically get better. It's a conviction that we can make things better. Same thing on the flip side with a pessimist sees the difficulty in every opportunity, but an optimist sees the opportunity in every difficulty. And so I like the idea of these, but I also feel like there is a way that I've almost had to kind of ground optimism a little bit. Because I feel like as I've gotten older and as life has happened, my thoughts on optimism have certainly changed. I like the idea of being hopeful and being excited, but I do feel like there are some things that I know I'm not going to get as excited about. I know I'm not going to have all the hopeful feelings towards, and that is because something in my past I have lived that, so I know realistically on that scale of optimism of what is going to be something that I can truly get behind and what is going to be one of those situations where I really just have to smile and get through it and almost fake it till you make it, which I feel like is almost the opposite of what optimism kind of embraces. But it is, it's absolutely grounded in that realism. And that's what I think is really powerful about optimism, is that so much of what you have experienced and so much what you bring to the table and so much that is uniquely you will absolutely put your optimism scale on a bit of a sliding scale. So I feel like that's not always lost on me. I do always like the optimistic ideas. And so I took an emotional intelligence assessment through my MBA program. And what came back for me on optimism is that you're not so optimistic that you ignore fear, nor are you so pessimistic that you ignore happiness, which I do feel like it's that excitement and hope, but definitely grounded in reality. And I also feel like that's just something that I've learned: always set goals, reach for the stars, but make sure you're still grounded and anchored in kind of how we do those things. So I think it's going to be a really, really lovely way to close out the year. But I also think I'm going to run into some speed bumps around kind of being truly, truly embracing of the optimism, or what are those things that I'm going to be able to get hopeful and excited about just because of, the history that I have in certain situations. So I would love to kind of hear your first reactions to optimism in the chat, and especially as we continue. So we're going to move into the optimism mind map, then we're going to do our rose, bud, thorn exercise, and then move into those weekly setup pages. So if you haven't done a mind map with us, this is something that is unique to the weekly setups. It is a way for us to deep dive a little bit into each theme. And so there are going to be 4 different weeks for this. So you're going to turn to a blank page anywhere in your journal. It could be the last page, or it could be just another blank section. And you're going to kind of split it up into 4 different categories. We're going to do a week 1, a week 2, a week 3, and a week 4. And so using that idea of optimism, we know that it's a skill that can be cultivated over time. And we know that optimism is certainly going to be impacted by what you have lived through and how you kind of approach things day to day. So we're going to try to each and every week kind of brighten your perspective. And so we want to unlock that power of optimism, because sometimes it's just those little adjustments or even just smaller focus points that can actually be quite powerful. So for the first week, we're going to celebrate the small wins. Recognize and celebrate even the tiniest victories each day. How can you do this, and what would it look like to celebrate small wins? And I think this is absolutely very much tied into our rosebud thorn reflection, but I can absolutely attest that celebrating your daily small victories is extremely powerful. I was seeing therapists for 2+ years. And that was something that was my homework every single day. I had to come up with something that I did good or well each single day. And that was all from like the big things to obviously just even on the smallest scale. But being able to take that time to celebrate each of those small wins every single day for 2 years was immensely powerful. The privilege that I had to kind of sit and do it. So I do feel like there are times where I feel less present, or if I'm just really busy, it is a skill that I can now tap into and find something good that I did every single day, and I can write those down and I can celebrate them. So I would love to hear how you kind of optimistically celebrate those small wins, and here are kind of some other ways you can kind of approach this week 1. Maybe you can ask yourself, how can you incorporate this into your daily routines, especially if you're not quite on the full scale, celebrate your small wins on a regular basis. But I also liked the idea of, how do you classify what a small win is? Do you edit what then should be celebrated? Do you have to find like the toppest of the winniest wins? Or is it just something that you have to kind of really tweak in your mind to truly celebrate it? And then I liked the idea of, what are ways that we can celebrate our achievements as much as we celebrate others. As I have known our Sonder family as long as I have, we are all definitely on the giving and the caring and the supporting phase. But I know we probably fall into some of those traps of kind of celebrating everybody else, but not quite giving ourselves that same ticker tape parade. And then, as always, how can the celebration of small wins help us build optimistic confidence? Because I do think that's what kind of rolls into this. Optimism is one of those really strong themes and emotion that can go hand in hand so well with some of those other things that we've been working on: confidence, momentum, happiness, joy, opportunities, all of those things. This just goes so hand in hand with. So I would love to hear how everyone celebrates their small wins on that weekly, again, mind map, and we will see you soon. Thank you, everybody, for sharing. I loved seeing already some of the inspirational changes that this has kind of brought up. Also, the rephrasing of the theme. We always love that if it doesn't quite connect to the kind of word, single word that's described the theme, to find a synonym or something that you can, you know, attach a little bit more to, I think is always great. But I loved the intentionality of focusing on celebrating those small wins. It looks like quite a few folks have kind of already started to sort of build that into their routine. But I do think it's one of those, as I said, it was something that I did for 2 years, probably now almost 10 years ago, but it is still something that I certainly incorporate, and it's a tool that I will always kind of fall back on in these type of situations, or if there's something really new, really outside of my comfort zone. So I do always feel like there is a really great opportunity to come back and give it a spotlight and give it its kind of moment in the sun again, to kind of reframe or bring it in, or even, and like I said, with optimism, there are times that I know I'm genuinely like all on board with it, and then there are times that it's a little bit phoned in, or I'm here, but I'm not here. So I always like the opportunity for these mind maps to highlight some of those things that even in my head I'm like, oh well, I do that, but it's an opportunity to kind of take a little bit of a step back and really revisit that idea again. But if this is not something that is quite in your wheelhouse, maybe it's a way to repurpose it and include it in your weekly setups, or especially if you haven't done the monthly setup, maybe there's a way to incorporate it into the month for this month. But also I think it's something that can extend into, are you celebrating other people's small wins? Now it's another one of those, we're here for our self-care, and a lot of times we're neglecting ourselves for that. But I think it becomes more of that authentic and kind of a natural expression as you truly have started to embrace it. It adds an authenticity when you kind of then share that kind of small win celebration for others. So thank you, everybody, for sharing. We are now going to move into the rosebud thorn exercise, which is on page 30 in your December journal, which I feel like, again, kind of goes hand in hand with celebrating those small wins. But it's taking it a little bit of that step further with an acknowledging a rose, which again is that highlight, a small win, something that's gone well, something that makes you happy, something that makes you smile, overlaying a bud that could eventually turn into a small win, something that you're getting excited about, an emerging opportunity, something that you're looking forward to. And that's one of those, I feel like that's also where kind of optimism can live a little bit. What is something that you're really excited about? What is something that you're hopeful will go well? All of those things kind of fall into the blood. And then being able to, on the flip side, acknowledge those thorns, which again is maybe something a little trickier, something that didn't go as well, a roadblock, a stumbling block, a challenge, kind of all those things. So for my rose this week, I had my last assignment for my MBA class this year due. I was really excited about it. It was a topic that is certainly not something I really know a lot about, but I had a lot of strong feelings about. So being able to dive into the data and analytics behind it, I have a healthier respect for it. My bud, that emerging opportunity, I'm so excited. I am going to go see Donny Osmond and Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat on Wednesday. I am excited. I have always been a Donny Osmond fan. I started watching him on the Donny and Marie show when I was a little kid. And so the opportunity to finally see him live and in person in a show that I know he genuinely really enjoys, I couldn't be happier. I couldn't be more excited. And then the thorn, while I am excited about kind of all of these things, this is actually going to be one of the busiest weeks I've had. I have to go into the office at least 3 out of the 5 days, which I usually don't go into the office except once a month. And then I have something scheduled every single evening or afternoon, which again, I am excited for all those things because they're going to be really fun, but I just haven't been this busy in a really long time, and I'm already maybe a little worn out just thinking about it. So while I feel like it's not the thorniest of thorns that I have, and again, it maybe is me just being a little realistic, but I'm probably going to be tired and exhausted, but I could not be more excited about all the things I have coming up. So I would love to hear your rosebud thorns for this past week. We want to be there to celebrate all those amazing roses, get excited about those upcoming buds, but also hold space for some of that support, sending extra love, thoughts, or strength as we acknowledge some of those thorns. So we'll see you soon. Thank you, everybody, for sharing. Please feel free to continue to share in the chat if you want to, because sometimes what I have found is just being able to write these down, taking that power of pen to paper, to be able to acknowledge something that I liked, that I really enjoyed, something that I'm now optimistic about, as well as something that didn't go so well. So that's now my opportunity to kind of evaluate all of these things. Is there something that I can start, stop, and continue from any of these kind of events? Is there something that I can cultivate? Is there something that I just needed to put out there and then leave it? Being able to kind of take a little bit of that control on the reflecting side of, excuse me, what am I going to continue? What am I going to do? What am I going to maybe carry over into the next week? So I think that's always what's really, really valuable for the rosebud thorn from just a kind of productivity standpoint. But then I also just like the idea of being able to kind of sit back and look at the week that I had, because it is definitely going to be a roller coaster. You're going to have the highs, the lows, and everything in between. And I like to kind of romanticize the idea of each week as a story. So it gives you a beginning, a middle, the denouement, and then the ending. So why not always kind of make it a little bit of magic in your week to week, being able to reflect there. So we are now going to move into the weekly planner portion. So these are going to be page 32 and 33 in your December journal as an opportunity to kind of set up how you want your week to be. I feel like this is one of those situations that you can kind of take some ownership and certainly be able to embrace what type of week you want to have, what kind of week you think you want to have, and kind of build in all of those pieces together. So this is the kind of official disclaimer of could always start with, what do you need this week? And sometimes it's you need to be able to be flexible. You need to be able to be adaptable. Maybe it is you need some of that structure. Maybe you don't need as much of these things each week. Maybe you just need your to-do list, or maybe those habits and activities. Maybe you really need the meal plan because we're coming off of the holidays and being able to kind of orchestrate leftovers and those type of things. But I love that each week can be something new. It can be something different, and asking yourself, what do you need this week, I think is a really great way to approach this, especially as we go into, there's going to be a ton of examples. You're going to be able to get great inspiration from the chat, but sometimes that can be a little bit overwhelming. And then when you step back and you've done all of these kind of maybe unconventional things, and you realize that it maybe wasn't what you needed, and so you can always break up with perfection and start over. So how I start each week is I want to ask myself how I want to feel this time next week. So we're at the top of page 32. Again, how I want to feel this time next week. It is my opportunity as I experience the roller coaster of the potential week ahead, or in this case, the very busy week that I have planned and I have scheduled. What are some things that I can come back to with how I want to feel this time next week? So for me, I'm absolutely embracing, I want to be present and I want to be connected to my day. Those are the two things that I want to feel this week, because like I said, I feel like I'm going to be stretched in a bunch of different directions. So I want to feel present and I want to feel connected with each and every day. But maybe your approaches are, you want to feel one particular word. You want to feel more something. You want to feel less something. You even just want to feel 1% better. You want to celebrate those wins. Maybe you're in that kind of celebratory mood. Maybe it is just alive and enthusiastic. Maybe it is holiday, festive, all of those things as we kind of roll into December. So I'm just going to put on a quick little song, but I would like to hear how you want to feel this time next week. And we'll see you. Thank you, everyone, for sharing. I also love the idea of being able to include a sticker. We have such great stickers. They want to be used, they want to be loved. So maybe that is how you want to feel this time next week. But I always love the intentional optimism that this kind of framing can have as we move into our weekly setup. So you're definitely gonna, I feel like this is a very, very easy way to embrace the theme because it is something that you can kind of take a little bit of ownership now, and how can we kind of continue to build off of that. So the way that I then build off of that is I have established how I want to feel this time next week. My weekly major three goals will usually always revolve around what sort of mental or emotional reminders am I going to need in order to feel present and connected to my day as I'm trying to want to do. And so the idea of, I usually tend to have some of the same goals from week to week. They don't tend to change very much, but there are a couple different ways you can approach this. I'm a big categories fan, so maybe you have a professional, a mind, a body. Maybe it is just the three things you want to do. For me, the 3 weeks here is go to bed when I need to go to bed, stay hydrated, and stay flexible. Those are my three goals that I want to accomplish this week, and I really feel like it's going to help me get through my week. But again, maybe these are kind of bigger ideas. Maybe these are your three favorite quotes, favorite movies. Maybe these are the three, holiday movies that you want to see. Maybe it's another play on the alliteration with productive, peaceful, powerful, the frog, fun, and fierce. Maybe you do categorize your three goals and then you have directly into it a to-do list. Maybe it is in the form of a bingo board. We always love a good bingo board. You'll see the commonality there. And I think that's another great way to add in some celebration. So a way to celebrate some of those smaller things that you accomplish. Maybe it are the things that you need to stop. Maybe this is actually where you're building that kind of self-care routine. Maybe this is where those weekly wins are going to potentially live, or maybe one of your goals could be celebrate the small things. And so we will also tend to see a lot of people will connect the two sections with the weekly to-dos and the weekly goals. But you can certainly repurpose these with affirmations as well. And maybe this is where you start as you prepare for the potential upcoming holidays and all of those things. Maybe one of those goals that you start at is just kind of get ready for it. And then I'm going to include the weekly to-dos because, like I said, a lot of people will do these hand in hand with those weekly goals. My weekly to-dos absolutely change week to week, a lot of it depending on what I have to do that week. And I'm definitely a fan of the to-dos. Again, celebrations are kind of a theme with me, I think. So I always love to celebrate the things that I have accomplished. But I have had to kind of restructure and reprioritize some of my to-do lists, and that's where I bring in the Eisenhower matrix, which is that do, decide, delegate, or delete. But because I live alone, I do not delegate things to the same extent that I think people think. I have to get creative with my delegation. And so sometimes that is, I don't really have time, energy, or the desire to cook. So I will delegate that to a local restaurant or a local takeout. I never delete anything. I actually just delay that. Yes, I will go back through all of these slides once I turn the music on. So if you need to see another slide or I need to go back, just throw that in the chat and we'll catch up with it. Pomodoro technique is another one of those great ones that if you have a lot of kind of small pieces in a larger task, that's a way to break it down that way. Maybe it is just a restructuring of the to-dos. Maybe you want to categorize those. Someone has a different to-do each day. Maybe it's a don't do this instead. And then I like the idea of being able to reprioritize that to-do list, break it down into the needs and the wants. And that's the same thing with maybe you have it in the work and the personal. Here are the things you need to do for work. Here are the things you want to do. Here are the things you want to do for personal. Here are the things that you need to do. Maybe it is just things you celebrated. Maybe this is where those weekly wins, those celebratory wins are. And same thing with maybe you really don't have weekly to-dos, or maybe your weekly to-dos are broken down more in the meal plan because you have meetings associated with that. Or maybe it is just in a different place, or you have a different to-do list, or maybe you have like a family friend to-do list, those type of things, so it just lives elsewhere, so you can always put in those fun stickers. So I would love to hear how maybe you connect the goals and the to-dos, or are you someone that kind of treats them as separately? And then there are times I have found that my to-dos tend to get moved from week to week to week, how do you kind of stop that cascading to-do effect? I have found that like shaking up how I approach my to-dos helps, but it's not always the answer. So I'm always looking for good advice on how to do that. So we will see you soon. Thank you, everybody, for sharing. I loved seeing all of the really good recommendations. And I think, again, sometimes it just comes back to reframing what do you need this week? And I do like that Jennifer mentioned that she was seeing some things on her to do list kind of repeating themselves. And so instead of kind of making it a bigger idea, it was breaking it down into a smaller to do list. So instead of finishing a book, it's read one chapter. Instead of just generically clean the bathroom, it will be sweep and mop the bathroom floor. So I feel like that is a really, really great approach to maybe it's not that the to-do list isn't the right thing. Maybe it's you just need to break it down a little bit more achievable. And sometimes the to-do list can multiply, but that's also what I think is really great with the idea of being able to kind of zoom in and zoom out. And sometimes that is kind of the key that you need to unlock whatever is holding you up that particular week. So thank you everybody for sharing. We are going to stay on page 32 and we're going to move to that habits and activities tracker. This is one of those that I will do hand in hand with the monthly activity tracker. And those are, I'm a creature of habit. I am one of those people that I do the same three things every single day. I want to move, journal, and read. But kind of taking a little bit out of Jennifer's recommendation is when I move them into my weekly habits and activities, I add that element of realism. So that's where I break down what can I realistically achieve? Am I going to be able to read for an amount of time? Do I just get to read like a chapter? Am I going to journal for like finishing a page or finishing a prompt? Am I going to journal for 30 minutes? Same thing with the workout. Is it going to be a kind of set aside dedicated workout? Or is it really just going to be the commute that I have to go from point A to point B because I don't have time to do the full kind of thing? So adding that element of realism, and for sure what I'm going to have to do this week is I know that my habits and activities are definitely going to look a little bit different this week, but I am okay with that because I know, again, I'm going to be able to reach some of my goals. They just may look a little bit different than what I expected. And so maybe these are habits and activities that you want to stop. Maybe these are ones that you want to set some goals to. Maybe it's not. A really good structure is that kind of 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. If you still want to add an element of goal orientation to it, or maybe it's not. Maybe these are, again, this is where some of those friendly reminders that you need to get you through the week so that you feel the way you want to feel this time next week. Maybe your week is just a little too much, and maybe you don't want to be worried about some of those habits and activities, so you can just throw some stickers on it. I feel like as we get a little bit closer to those holidays, that is certainly what a couple of my weeks are going to look like. I am actually going to travel home for Christmas to spend time with my family in Oklahoma, so I know that my habits and activities are not going to look what they usually look to, and they're not going to be nearly as diligent, and that's okay. And what I also like is maybe being able to break it down into your weekdays or your weekends. And just because there are 5 lines does not mean you need to do all 5. Maybe it's just 2 things, maybe it's 1 thing, maybe it's 3 things. Maybe it's just kind of a combination of. And it's always great to kind of include something fun and something new, but maybe that's kind of what you don't particularly do. And I know a lot of you who've attended my socials before, I love the iconography of some of those things. And so here are just some other really fun, I think, habits and activities that you could kind of include. And I really liked the Healthy Habits Daily Countdown because those are also associated with that kind of 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 kind of concept, but with a couple other different numbers. So also really good ideas, but also how you can expand to include some of those goal orientations that you may want to include here. And then as always, what's going to make your kind of December a jolly as we move in there, so these can be fun habits and activities to include. And then also on the flip side here, maybe some of those reminders if the holidays are hard. I did see someone mention that, that it can be a little bit tricky this time of year. So here are always those kind of good, just like I said, fun things that make me happy. They put a smile on my face. And I think, again, it's another way to kind of trick myself into doing things that I think are a little bit fun, a little bit quirky, but also just really kind of helps me on that kind of self-care journey, especially as I remind myself to rest and be present and do all those things, because the last thing we need is to be burnout this time of year. So I would love to hear what habits and activities you all are working on, and we will see you soon. Thank you, everybody, for sharing. I loved seeing all of the additional things that you kind of include, and always something that's fun. What I also think is great about this is maybe, so I tend to focus a little bit more on just the general like routine and habits and activities that I want to accomplish each week. But this can absolutely be a section that will help you utilize your journal a little bit more. Because again, I'm always a big fan of work smarter, not harder. I think it also becomes a really great cheat sheet in that regard. So maybe this is where you put a weekly reminder to check in with your intentions. Maybe it is to do, one prompt every single day in your journal. Maybe it's to spend, 5 minutes or 10 minutes on the coloring page. Maybe it is set aside 5 minutes to do a daily ritual or a daily affirmation. So I do think the idea of being able to use this as your journal guide or journal cheat sheet, I think is great, especially, like I said, my habits and activities, three of them are very much ingrained in what I do on a daily basis. So I do track them there, but maybe it could be a little bit more functional if I'm traveling or kind of some of those things, to make that more conscious effort to set aside time to do those things. So definitely let the journal help you help yourself. And sometimes that's also just being, realistic with your expectations. I found that when I wasn't quite accomplishing my habits and activity goals, it was because I really wasn't being realistic with what I was going to do. I wasn't going to be able to read 30 minutes every single night. I wasn't going to be able to do a full hour workout every single day, especially when I don't like to do it outside in the rain and the dark, those type of things. So sometimes it's adding that realm, and that's where I think that, like I said, to me, it's how I embrace optimism. I optimistically feel like I'm going to achieve all of these activities, but the slightly realist in me is like, okay, well, let's set ourselves up for the most successful way we can do this. And then, like I said, trick ourselves to be like, man, we were geniuses a week ago. But we are now going to move into page 2 of the weekly planner, which is the page 33. And so these, again, are something that you can ask yourself, what do you need this week? Because for me, these are the B-sides of that really great record. I don't listen to them all the time. I just know that there are times that there's an amazing gem, so I will play that on repeat when I need it, but it is not really something that I diligently do every week, and I am okay with that. It definitely took me probably 2.5 years to get to that kind of realization, because I was just coming unsatisfied that I wasn't quite committing to these and I wasn't really accomplishing them as much as I wanted. But a lot of these do get repurposed, and so you can start with the meal plan. Maybe this absolutely is the true meal plan because you're using it to plan, because you either have a large family, you have budget constraints, or it is a healthcare journey that you are meal prepping for. You can also turn this into kind of a meal tracker. Again, if that's the type of healthcare journey that you're on, maybe this is where those small wins are. If you need to celebrate each and every one of those each day, maybe this is where those to-do lists are. Excuse me. Maybe this is where you put those daily affirmations. Maybe this is your plan to kind of get in the holiday spirit. Maybe this is a movie guide. Again, maybe it's a health tracker. Maybe it's a way that you can embrace optimism. Or maybe it's a way that you can turn it into a meal plan for the soul. What are those prompts that you want to dive into a little bit more? Kind of treat this as a section for a little bit more self-reflection. Maybe you just want to pull a word of the day and reflect on how that word potentially impacted your day, or maybe that was the word of the day that you wanted to embrace for that day. Again, we talked about traveling. I know I've used this absolutely as a wardrobe tracker or a planner when I travel, to make sure that I am maximizing what I'm bringing. So I've used it for work travel as well as personal travel. And then I think it's also just a really good concept of, how did you rest today? How did you fill your cup today? Because I know that's going to be really important, because our time is not going to be our own as we go into December more. And sometimes it's just acknowledging, what have you done for yourself today? And that is not selfish, that is part of the self-care program. And so you can then incorporate the mind-body health plan. Again, this is something that you can kind of plan for, or it's something that you can track in real time. I love the elegance of the feel and need. It's where you ask yourself this is what I am feeling, so therefore I need. It is a really, really powerful check-in that I think is really nice, because it's something that you can just jot down either in your journal or just on a quick post-it note, especially as you start to get kind of a little bit into that mind fog, or maybe pulled in a little bit of directions, and you can kind of feel that the pulse and the blood pressure increase. So it is certainly a way to help kind of cut through and see through the fog. Maybe it's a highlight of the day, maybe it's the things that you want to unplug from or for. Maybe it's a reading log. Again, maybe it's the here are reminders that you're not selfish if you take this time to focus on you. Maybe it is embracing those 7 types of rest. I know I'm probably going to need a combination of those next week. So I do know that my page 2 weekly pages are going to look a little bit different as I am kind of recovering from all of the fun and excitement that I have planned. But maybe this is where you kind of write down some of those prompts. And then, like I said, here's some of that iconography that I love, ways to fill your cup, little things that are worth smiling about. And then the shopping list can go hand in hand with that meal plan and the meal prep. Also, I feel like as we get close to the holidays, it has a really great purpose there as you start planning for maybe some of those needs. It's also a great way for the bingo boards to show up. Maybe it's a celebrate the wins bingo board, maybe it's optimism, maybe it's the boring stuff bingo, self-care reminders, the just for fun, the buy, don't buy, maybe some of those, all those pieces of all the things that you need to do in preparation for the holidays. Maybe it's some of those mini breaks at work. Maybe it is the upcoming travel plan and some of the logistics there. I think we carried over some of the glimmer idea from Joy, so this should help with some of those celebrating the wins. And then I also liked, again, the idea of how to love yourself in the December edition. So I am going to stop talking. I will go back through all of those slides and we will check back in to wrap up the social. Thank you, everybody, for sharing. And so I love that you can always reframe this and use this as what you need. I saw that someone was going to need to use the meal plan and the wardrobe planner as they head back to work. I think that is absolutely great. And that's what I love when you can kind of zoom back out and ask yourself, what do I need this week? And then the very last section is the I am loving. This is an opportunity to shamelessly plug whatever is making you happy, whatever is making you feel fulfilled, what has brought you joy, what you are thoroughly enjoying. So I would love to see in the chat what are some of the things that you are currently loving. I have definitely fallen down the like chamber music, pop music mashups. So I love being able to find those and play those. They just make me so happy. And now I can't unhear like a good solid string quartet in some of these pop music, rock musics, all the things. And then as always, we would love to continue the conversation in the Silk and Sonder app. It always goes by so quickly. You all provide such amazing inspiration, such amazing conversation. I always learn something new every time I come to these, and it is something that I always look forward to. But can you believe we've reached the end? As always, we definitely have some of the Black Friday sale things going on. So if you haven't checked out the website, please do so. And then the personalized life coach is absolutely amazing. It's that 24-hour access that I think is really great. And you can always ask for help. You can take pictures of your journal. You can get that inspiration. And sometimes it's actually just that really supportive, amazing kind of friend that you kind of need if it's kind of late at night or early in the morning or just kind of a weekday, weekend, some of those things. So it's something that truly does work in time. There are a couple YouTube videos around it that you can definitely get some answers to, but certainly worth checking out. And it is certainly absolutely worth it. And then as always, this is my playlist for the social. I include all of my playlists on Spotify. I save them. So if you need a fun little instrumental 30-minute playlist, they're there. All the themes, all the different months, just something that makes you happy. So I will be at the monthly setup later today. So I hope to see a lot of you there. And so we get kind of December setup, but I have certainly enjoyed setting up the first week of December. So this is the last first week of the year, which is always exciting, a little sad. But I am certainly very optimistic to close out this month with my amazing Silk and Sonder family. We hope to see you at another event and we hope to see you soon. Have a great Saturday. Bye.